I'd like to welcome you to this portion of the Peaceful Solution Character Education webinar. And we're going to be covering today the acceptance unit. This is the intermediate unit of the Peaceful Solution Character Education program. And what we're going to cover today, we're going to learn about acceptance. Now, who thinks that they know what acceptance is? Let's just get a definition here. Go ahead.
Accepting who people are, accepting instructions given to you.
Accepting who people are, okay. And what might take place if somebody doesn't have acceptance? Does anyone want to give that a quick answer? Okay.
They wouldn't feel welcome, maybe rejected.
Feel rejected. Okay, that is exactly what we're going to be covering today in class. We're going to learn that everyone deserves to be accepted and that no one should feel rejected in any way. And we're going to be covering that and learning that. We're going to be going over a couple of different situations where people have been rejected, maybe because of skin color, maybe because of religion, or various other things. But we're going to learn why that it's important that everyone deserves to have acceptance, okay? Now, first of all, I want you to look around. Look around the room, and I want you to tell me, is there anyone here that looks identical? Like, does anyone look the same? No, we're all different, right? A great friend of mine has twins. And I asked her to bring the children because I wanted to kind of ask her a couple questions, and she was kind enough to bring her children. So here, she's right over here. Her name's Kim. She's got twin boys, okay? All right, so you want to stand up with the children? Now, what we want to ask is, are they exactly alike? No? Can you tell us the differences in the children?
Oh, yes. One, well, of course, their appearance. One has a birthmark on them. The other one just has a little tiny mark as a birthmark. But the main thing is the way they act. He's more adventurous. Everything he's really into. Climbing. Mm-hmm. He is very loud. He likes to dance. He likes to, be really funny and silly. Or he's more observed, and he'll watch him. And then if he likes it, he'll do it. If not, he'll just look at him and walk off. Well,
thank you for sharing that. Okay, so see, now we can see that even twins that might look alike, they're not the same. We're all different, and that's okay. And we're going to learn that that is okay. It's okay for us to be different. See, when we start acknowledging our similarities and embracing our differences and being able to handle that fact, then we can all get along in society. Now, right now, in society, what we see is a major lack of acceptance. And we're going to get into that a little bit. Now, I have reader number one. Reader number one, you want to stand up and read your card for us, nice and loud. Come on up here.
Prejudice stems from ignorance. Be educated. The Peaceful Solution.
Thank you. Okay, appreciate that. So, it comes from ignorance. Prejudice comes from ignorance. So what we're going to do is we are going to educate you on why it's important to accept others. Now, how many of you have ever felt a lack of acceptance in your life? Oh, wow. Everybody almost has their hand up. Is there anyone that has never, ever, ever felt unaccepted? Wow. So you can see no one put their hand up. So at one time or another, we've all had that feeling. And I can remember, being young, and, you start going through those teenage awkward years where maybe they might say something and make fun of you, and then that's it, your whole world. Or maybe, do you remember when you found your first pimple on your face? How many of you remember that?
Never had.
And you stood in front of the mirror for like hours looking at that pimple as if it were just going to vanish away, and it didn't. But these are some of the things, when you start really focusing on these things and you make them a bigger thing than what they are. And what we're going to learn today is it's really not that big of a deal, okay? Hey, a pimple comes and a pimple goes. And if somebody would have told me when I was in high school, when the pimples were a big deal to me, that it would pass and pretty soon there wouldn't be any more pimples, but that everybody gets them, and just if you kind of act like they're not there, then people probably won't see them. But if you come and you've got a big Band-Aid on your face, or a big glob of makeup there covering the pimple so that now it's sticking out this far. So these are the kind of things that we do when we're trying to feel accepted, okay? All right, so we're going to learn a little bit more about this. And I wanted to cover first, this is called an equation of hate. And we have intolerance. And who can tell me, what does intolerance mean? Anybody know? intolerance. Okay?
Would it be refusing to tolerate somebody?
When you refuse to tolerate someone, well, yeah, I'm just not going to tolerate you for whatever reason. Maybe what I wanted to really do is on Oprah one time, I believe it was Oprah, she sat the audience, all the blonde hair and blue-eyed people on one side of the room, and she sat all the brown hair and brown-eyed people on the other side of the room, and she was really kind and sweet and offered snacks and things to the blonde hair, blue-eyed people, or vice versa, I can't remember. And she was kind of short. They were kind of short with the other section to make them feel, to help them to feel what it feels like not to be accepted or to make someone feel like they were superior over someone else because of their superficial looks. And the audience actually started, the blondes were thinking, yeah, we're better. And they were offered the best seats. And they did that as an experiment, but the people failed because they gave into actually feeling that feeling and then putting the brown hair, I don't remember which way it was, but whichever way it was, they started then treating them differently, treating them wrong. And you can see, and throughout many times in history, we've seen where a lack of acceptance has caused a lot of major things like that, where you divide the people. Because when you accept, it brings people together, doesn't it? But when you don't accept them, you're actually causing a division, right? Okay, so we've got intolerance. What about the word inconsiderate? That's our next word. Who can tell me what that means? Just what you think it means to be inconsiderate.
I think it means that you're rude.
You're rude. Yes, rude would be inconsiderate. Yes, rude.
A lack of kindness.
A lack of kindness. For whatever reason, you're just not kind. It's inconsiderate. Yes, ma'am.
Putting yourself first and others last.
Putting yourself first and others last. Yes, it's not considerate. It's not kind. It's not showing kindness. Yes?
Failing to think about how your actions affect others.
Yes, how do my actions affect the person that's across from me or next to me, right? That's inconsiderate. You go through life and you're thinking, well, it's all really just about me, right? But no, like our first teacher said, we don't live on that deserted island that she talked about. And remember, we decided at the end of her little speech that we didn't really want to live on a deserted island because people need people, right? Imagine having no interaction, like she said. Okay, so the next thing is racism. Who could tell me what racism is? What does that mean, racism? Anyone? The race should give you a little, that's just a clue. Yes?
Okay, it means to dislike somebody who is not what you think is your same skin color or...
Right. To dislike them and actually be inconsiderate and not tolerate them, right? To treat them rudely, to separate yourself from them, right? Okay, and then what about discrimination? Discrimination. Yes, ma'am.
When I think of discrimination, I think of, the treatment that you show towards somebody. You favor one person, or you disfavor another person, or you give a special treatment to someone, or not the other person, based on intolerance and inconsiderate and racism.
Right. And when you think about, that's a great answer too. When you think about someone's outward appearance, and you could have somebody, and I've seen before where you've had big men with tattoos and they look almost scary. And I'm going to tell you a little quick story. When I was very young and I had a little baby and I was all alone and somebody had stolen money from me and I had nothing to eat for me or my baby, this big tattoo, scary looking person actually came to my aid when everyone else had completely deserted me and I had no help or anything. That person helped me. Now, if I were not going to accept that person just by appearance, because maybe he looked intimidating, maybe he had the tattoos, and maybe he looked scary to me. You got to get to know what somebody's like on the inside. And remember, we learned that the other day, that character versus personality, right? We have to get to know that character, because that's what's important. Okay, so now we've got intolerance, inconsiderate, racism, and discrimination. And that equals what? Say it with me. Hate. Now, these words are only a part of our vocabulary because of a lack of acceptance. Do you realize that? These words they only exist because of a lack of acceptance of others. You know, we've got to think about what people are like on the inside. You could have somebody that, and I've seen it before too, where people are very well dressed, they're very beautiful, they're very nice, but they're dishonest, they steal. So we've got to look past that physical outward appearance and start accepting people for being people, right? The only reason that you should remove yourself from somebody is if they have a negative character, because a negative character could cause hurt or harm to you or others. So you would not want to be around that kind of character. But just because of what somebody looks like, no, you know, their age, how much they weigh, what color their skin is, whether they have straight hair, curly hair, blonde hair, brown hair, right? It doesn't matter. All that matters is what's going on the inside. What is their heart like? How are these people, right? That's how we should be judging. Okay, so we're going to move right along here. And if I could get reader number 2 to come on up here and stand up and read for us. Reader number 2.
Intolerance hurts. Intolerance, the opposite of acceptance, takes many forms. Stereotyping, prejudice, and discrimination are all ways in which intolerance manifests itself in our society. Regardless of the form it takes, its effects are always the same. Intolerance, when directed at an individual, community, or even a nation, results in fear, distrust, anger, resentment, and even war. An intolerant attitude starts when one judges others unworthy to live in peace and security due to superficial differences.
Thank you so much. Let's give her a hand. Okay, we've got what intolerance leads to. And I want us to kind of take a look at this here, because I want to hear from you of what you've seen on the news and what you've experienced maybe in your own life. We've got intolerance leads to, and we've got violence. Now, who can give an example of when an intolerant attitude has led to violence? Anyone? Okay, go ahead.
Well, the civil rights movement of the 1960s.
Right. That's a great one. The civil rights movement. Remember that? Okay, we had, blacks against whites, right? The civil rights? Okay, what about something else? What about something recently? Maybe in Wisconsin? Maybe somebody went in with a gun? Anything?
It was a different religion.
The Sikh Indian, yes. Great. It's in every day on the news. You're seeing these things more and more and more. Okay. Anything else that's similar to the Sikh shooting? Okay.
I think there was a shooting in a grocery store, and it just seems like it can take place anywhere.
Anywhere. Because they're not tolerating. They're intolerant. Now, with the Sikh shooting, they thought they were Muslim. And the news reporters kept saying, well, you know, he went in there and he shot them because he thought they were Muslim. Well, should Muslims be shot? Now, I want you to hear how intolerant even the news media was in that situation. Well, you know, he went in there and he shot them because he thought they were Muslim. And really, everyone knows that the Muslims were the ones that blew up the Trade Center, right? No. Every Muslim didn't blow, even if they knew for sure that it was Muslims that did that. Did every Muslim go do that? Even if maybe one time a tall black man gets arrested for robbing a bank, is every tall black man then a criminal? No. Okay. Maybe a little old lady, maybe she's Hispanic, she goes in the store and she steals produce. Is every little old Hispanic lady a thief? Okay, now you've got a young white boy. He goes into his school and he shoots all the children because they were bullying him. So now is every young white boy a murderer? No. So do you see the point I'm trying to make here? It's intolerance. You know, we decide within ourselves, well, you know, I'm not going to like this race because I think that they did this to me. So I'm going to go and I'm going to kill them. But see, where's the morality there? Do you see the point? There's no morality shown there. So now, what about where it leads to conflicts? Can anyone show where maybe an intolerant attitude led to a conflict? Okay.
There was a film that was recently made about the Prophet Muhammad, and that has really caused almost like crisis.
Major. I'm glad you brought that up. Okay. In case you didn't hear her over here, she talked about the film that was recently made about the Prophet Muhammad. Remember the film that was made making fun of the Prophet Muhammad? And that has caused riots in so many nations. They're like rioting. They're burning the American flag. Now, let me ask you a question. Now, I don't know how many of you here are Americans, because I know we have some people here at the webinar from other countries, but is every American, do they all have that same attitude about the Prophet Muhammad? No. So you have to see that one isolated case, you can't form an opinion on maybe how somebody looks. And so it's really important, and I hope everybody's understanding that that's stereotyping. That's categorizing people according to how they look. It has nothing to do with what's going on the inside, okay? What about devaluing human life? Any examples of how intolerance, any devaluing of human life? Abortion. Yeah, I don't want it. Let's just get rid of it. That's a great answer.
Another intolerance is those that don't tolerate those that have abortions, so they go and blow up the clinics and kill the doctors who do the abortion.
Exactly. That's a great answer too, and I want everybody to think about that, because here you might think, well, I'm a very moral person and I'm against abortion, and so I'm against murder. So let's go just murder all those doctors who are performing the abortions. Now the mindset there, it's retaliation. It's not going to bring peace, and I want to remind everyone that you are at the Peaceful Solution Character Education webinar. So, the key word there is peace, full of peace, right? Okay, now what about hate? What about hate? Have you ever seen an intolerant attitude that led to hatred? Pure, outright hatred. Yes, ma'am?
Well, like when Rodney King was beat by the policeman and then the whole city went crazy. I mean, that was pure hatred.
Pure hatred. That's a great answer. Rodney King, remember? Now, here's a man, he was minding his business, driving down the road, and he was pulled over for this or that or whatever. And, maybe he was breaking the rules of the road. I don't know. I wasn't there. But they pull him over, and they beat him senselessly. Right? Does everybody remember that? Yeah. So, in response to that, then all the people who looked like Rodney King, outward physical appearance, decided to go burn the city of Los Angeles up. Did that help?
No.
Did it bring peace?
No.
So see, that's what we're learning here today. Our reactions to the intolerance, we have to be above that. If we're going to teach the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, if we're going to be examples of this, and if it's going to work, then we have to be able to tolerate somebody that's not tolerant of us. And we'll get to that. That's kind of at the end of the lesson. But keep that in mind. We have to learn to tolerate those who don't tolerate us. Okay. Now, the last one, distrust or fear. Anybody have okay?
Yes, I would like to say about the Mexican cartel in Tamaulipas, Mexico. These people just start killing people because of the drugs and everything. And they just get whoever's in the street, they just get them. And now it so occurs that there's other people that were innocent. Now they, because of hate, are the ones killing the bad guys. And it's going chaotic.
Thank you. You see, every time someone's raised their hand, there's some form of retaliation. Not tolerating those that don't tolerate us, okay? So it's all about that toleration. Not intolerant, but to learn how to be tolerant. Okay, reader number 3. Reader number 3. This is on page 29 if you've got your book.
No one should be made to feel as if he is less than who he is, just so someone else can feel great about himself for a short time.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's really what it's all about, right? If I'm wanting to make you look bad, it's really that's a lesson that sometimes we learn late in life, even in adulthood, and we don't even realize that we've done it, and that we've done it a lot in our lives. But sometimes to make somebody else look bad, to make ourselves look better. And that's something that the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, that can change. That can change you. So if you're like that, or if you know someone that's like that, I really recommend these books. These are really great books. Okay, now, I want to jump over here because our first teacher touched on this a little. So you already probably all know the answer. So if you don't, then I'm going to say you might not have been paying close attention. Okay? So it says, just how different are we? Just how different are we? Does anyone know how many races are there in the world? How many races there are? I know this is kind of a hard question because, we've got people with dark skin and we've got people with light skin, blonde hair, blue eyes. But how many different races are there in the world?
My answer is there's one race, and that's the human race.
That is the right answer. Now, do you know how many webinars that I've attended where people don't know the answer to that? There is one race, the human race. Yes, we all, unless you've been in an accident or something has taken place, we all have arms and fingers and a head and a neck to rest it on and legs and everything. We all have blood on the inside of our bodies. We all have a brain to think with. We have mouths, right? We're the same. We're the human race. But at the time that this book was written, there were 6 billion people. 6 billion people on Earth. And now I think there's almost 8 billion people. So you can see how the population has increased. So I'm going to ask, what percentage of our genes do we share?
99.9.
Is that the correct answer? I hope so. Okay, and so what's our differences? Ding, 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 ding. Give yourself a clap. Great job. A lot of people don't realize that. And you know what that little tiny percent is? I wanted to make it really small. But you know what that is? That's our hair color, our eye color, little insignificant things like that. Whether, I've got straight hair and she's got curly hair. And what's really funny about that little 0.1% difference is the people with straight hair are always getting perms in their hair so that they can have curly hair. And the people that have curly hair are usually sit there with a hot iron and make their hair straight. So that little tiny, and I really want to point this out, that tiny 0.1%, we're always trying to change that anyway. That's our differences. We're always trying to, so really we want to be exactly 100%, right? If you've got light skin and you're anything like me, you spend your whole summer laying out in the sun to try to get darker. And then you've got people who, I got to stay out of the sun because I don't want to get too dark. So if you think about these things, why are there wars and fighting? What is with the separation? Why did people have to go to the back of a movie theater just a very few short years ago, I might add? Why did they have a line at a drinking fountain for black folk and then a line at a drinking fountain for white folk? Why would they do that? Why would they do that for that 0.1%? I want you to really be thinking about this because this is major. Wars are fought because of this very thing. Okay, so now I'm going to jump over. I want to show you something here. Okay. It says an apple a day keeps intolerance away. So we're going to talk a little bit about apples. You might say, well, what do apples have to do with character education or acceptance? But we want to bring a little point here. How many of you love Granny Smith apples? They're the green ones, and they're kind of a little bit tart and a little bit sweet. You like Granny? That's because we're from the same town, the same hometown. I like Granny Smith myself. Who likes the Red Delicious? Ooh, Red Delicious. They must be better. You like the Red Delicious? How many like the golden apples? You like the golden? Yeah. Really? All those apples? Now let's talk about apples. What do they all have in common? Apples?
They have seeds.
They all have seeds. Is that true? Yes. They all have seeds. And what else? What else do all the apples have in common?
They
They all come off a tree.
They all come off, is it true? They all come off a tree? Or from the grocery store produce counter? But they originated on a tree. What else do they have in common? Apples. The skin, they all have a skin. Now, the skin, is the skin always the same color? No. Oh, now we have a problem. Now we have a problem with these apples. Right? There's a problem there. And those green apples, probably when you take a bite out of them, they just might bite back. Now, I've heard about those green apples, right? No, but that's how intolerance starts. Just by, maybe making an assumption or a comment about something. But guess what? You slice an apple in half, and I want you to tell me, what does that apple look like on the inside? It's the same. And I'm telling you, if I put a blindfold on every single one of you Red Delicious eaters, Granny Smith eaters, the Goldens, right, all of us, we wouldn't, if we had them sliced on a plate and the skin peeled off of them, you wouldn't know. If I just sliced them up and maybe sliced it in quarters, you wouldn't know which apple it was. You wouldn't be able to tell me. So it's the same way with the people. What matters is on the inside, what's on the inside. So I want us to keep that in mind, okay? All right, so reader number 4. Reader number 4? Do I have reader number 4? Reader number 4!
Make a difference, make a choice. Now that you know how damaging hatred and intolerance are, you have a responsibility to share this knowledge with others. Share this knowledge, and to stand up for acceptance even when others insist on an attitude of intolerance. Standing up for acceptance of others in the face of opposition means having determination and courage and compassion.
Thank you. Is it always easy to have a tolerant attitude? No. It's not always easy. Are you always in the majority when you're being tolerant? No. Sometimes you're faced with opposition, like maybe somebody will make a joke, a racial joke. What we really know, there's only one race, so really the joke's on them. We know that. But they might make some kind of slur. They might make fun of somebody who's handicapped, or they maybe make fun of somebody because of their weight, or any other thing. But now that we have the knowledge of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program and we understand what acceptance is, then now it's time for us to have to go out of here and put it into practice, because that's the harder part, is living it in our everyday life, okay? So we have to make that choice. We can make a difference, okay? We can make that difference. And reader number 5, our last reader, if she'll come up.
It's all about getting along. 3 points. Be determined not to make derogatory remarks, to put others down for any reason. Point number 2 is choose your words carefully when you're speaking to others and communicate respectfully. Point number 3 is learn about others' customs so that you don't offend them or make them feel uncomfortable or unwelcome.
Thank you. And think about that. I know in New York City, everyone goes there. They end up going to New York from all different places. And there's so much diversity there. And one of the things that I've heard about New York is that everybody pretty much is accepting, because you've got this part of town and you have the Indian portion and you have this portion and that portion, and they all live together and they seem to get along until 2 planes go diving into a trade center and they decide that those are the people that did it. And maybe the day before everybody got along fine, and maybe they were neighbors, maybe they were friends. But do you see how one little incident can change the course of the world and the attitude of the people? But not us here. Not after this webinar. We're going to go out of here and we're going to remember to be tolerable, tolerant people, even to those who are not tolerant towards us, okay? It's been a pleasure teaching you today, and I appreciate your time.